Hey, you know what time it is. I don't need to say the name. So we have my cousin on again. And it's funny, like I said before, I always get my cousins on the show.
You're plenty cousins, huh?
I'm finding out I have more and more every day. But this is Mike Tui, and I mentioned a little bit about his family. His dad was in technology, was an IT guy, and we actually went to church together. And so we grew up going to the same ward from Papakolea, and got to know him. I actually got to know him even better after he got married, and then I got married to my wife, and we were in Makiki Ward, because back in our home ward, there's kind of a big age gap, and so I think I was like in high school, and I think he was in primary or
Yeah.
something. But when we all got into adulthood, then
I get the white beard now.
that our face still young though, bro. Our face still young. The head gray, but that's all right. But yeah, so it's very late right now, and so I want to respect his time and give him an opportunity to talk stories. So here's my cousin Mike Tui, brother. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, aloha kako everyone. Not too late, I'm up here in North Carolina. So my wife and I have been living up here about 8 years now. But just to quickly introduce myself, some of you guys, if you go Punchbowl Cemetery, you've seen this before, the gateway to Papakolea. But born and raised up there, they call them Beverly Hills because we live up the hill, literally the steep part. Ka'ula'au. And like Gavon said, we had a pretty big age gap, but like you said, like once got into the singles program and got married, better got to connect a lot more. But your dad, oh man, I love your dad. He plays such a, I don't know if you knew this, but he plays such an important role, just like many of the other Kanaka in our church ward there. I think your dad was at one time my Sunday school teacher for the youth. I don't know if he was subbing that time or because I felt like I kept seeing him. But yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. I appreciate you for doing this. I got to watch some of the other videos, and you get some hammers on this channel, and to listen to them and then to be grateful and humble that you asked me to be part of this. Definitely appreciative.
Oh, of course,
look,
brother.
I knew she'd come.
Yeah, speaking of hammers,
oh, look this one.
How's it? You guys know like go sleep? I know my boy's the same way. You guys like be on the show?
I think just her. She usually stay up the latest, but she get one hurry actually. So just yesterday, she learned how to ride her bike by herself.
Oh, mean.
Yeah, Kikoa's bike.
Nice, good job.
Yeah, she started on the Strider, and then I was sitting at my desk, typing away, and I hear her first in the garage, and then I see her walking down the hill. We got one little hill on our driveway with her brother's bike. And I go, "Hey, what you doing?" "Oh, I'm gonna ride bike today." Keep in mind, she never rode bike before without the the training wheels. She's like,
right
"What?"
here.
And sure enough, a couple of tries and
I got chocolate cream.
Natural. All right.
Too good, man. Okay. Yeah, no.
I'm Jaunty.
Okay, say good night.
Good night. She don't let go.
Stay,
That's okay.
We'll get the door over there quick.
I like those unplanned interruptions. It's a good interruption when you keep coming.
Yeah, so on that note, we get 4 kids.
Okay.
So my oldest is 11. And then we just had our youngest December 1st. So we get a newborn in the house now.
Oh, bro, congrats, bro. I don't think I even knew that, man. Sheesh. Wait, how many was that then? 4, 5?
Yeah, 4 altogether.
Okay.
And they're all about 3-4 years apart. So man, it's been a blast. The oldest, she was born in Hawaii. Just to kind of give you a little bit more background. So born and raised Papakolea. I actually attended the funny part. So I went to Po'oa Elementary and then Stevenson, and then went to McKinley. So you're supposed to go Roosevelt. Yeah, you're supposed to go Roosevelt, but at that time I was playing Pop Warner football, and McKinley just brought on the Tanuvasas to coach, the football team. And as a 7th grader, 8th grader, see these Samoan guys like, on the sideline watching me play Pop Warner football. I was like, whoa, why are these guys over here? So long story short, ended up going over there, had some good fun and made some awesome friends and relationships. Graduated, and then let's see. Oh yeah, ended up going to California for a year, and played football up there in the Bay Area, Menlo College, small school. I actually had a lot of Hawaiians at that school, at least people from Hawaii, some locals. And so we had our own Hawaiian club, and did a lot of fun stuff up there, and then decided to go on my church mission. So for the Church of Jesus Christ, and out of all places, once I put my notification in that I want to go, I was waiting by the mailbox, and when it came in, I was like, wait, what is this place? How do you even pronounce it? And normally, especially nowadays, some people wait for gather the family, and and I'm gonna read them out loud to everybody. Me, I couldn't wait because this might be a different story, but just to get to that point of making that decision for myself, because I thought I was gonna go in a different direction. I was continue to play football, continue school, but I had some awesome spiritual experiences off on my own, so no longer kind of under the shadow of the powerhouse of mom and grandma, but had to learn for myself. And so having those experiences, once that came in, I was like, man, I'm not gonna wait for nobody. I like to know right now where I'm gonna go. Later on, I would call everybody up and pretend that I never know. But ended up going to the Ukraine, learning Russian. So speaking Russian, living there for 2 years. So I did 1 year California for school, and 2 years on my mission for the Church of Jesus Christ in the Ukraine. And unfortunately, sad part is, where the war is now still happening, by the way, and where Russia invade Ukraine. That was basically the cities I was living in. And so I still get people that I'm connected to over there via Facebook, and they message me. Most of them were able to flee and go to different countries, but that's another story in itself. After the mission, came back and decided, I gotta go back to school. I gotta do something with myself, not just hang out at home. And my grandma, she was getting older, needed some help, and so I decided to stay a little closer to home, and ended up applying for Chaminade University. Awesome experience. They have several great programs. I want to say it's still available. Actually, they used to give a scholarship specific for Native Hawaiians, and then even another one for those that grew up Hawaiian homestead. So I'm hopeful that they still have those available. But long story short, I ended up going there, graduating my bachelor's in psychology, then going back for my master's in counseling psych, emphasis on marriage and family therapy. But yeah, it's kind of just brief summary of kind of my track and what I get to do now. Actually, even before I left, also after graduating, actually back up a little bit, graduated my bachelor's, and then told myself, man, my school counselor never told me that I cannot do much with my own bachelor's in psychology. That bugger. Maybe it set me up because I got to get my master's now to do something with it. So in the meantime, I was like, man, okay, I'm getting married soon. I start one family, so I got to get my real job. I was doing small stuff, helping out. You probably know Dan Ahuna and the family. So I was helping out. Me and my brothers actually was working with his. He had one landscaping business for a while before he moved up Kauai. So we was one of his first kind, workers, I guess you could say, did the hard work.
Cool. Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool, bro.
By the way, you should bring him on. I can call him and ask him if he like be on the channel. Be a good one. So I was doing small kind of work here and there, and told myself, man, I gotta start my career or something. And then my sister, I come to find out, I never know this about my sister, but she actually even try to apply for the police department, Honolulu Police Department, 2 times already, I think. By the time we had this conversation, her and I. So long story short, she the one who convinced me to try apply for the police department. So we both went take the test. and truth be told, at that time, I was like, oh, it'll be a good career for sure. And I love helping people. You know, my grandfather always had the police scanner. Always listened to the watch cops. So it was definitely an interest of mine. But I was also kind of supporting my sister at that time. So through the testing process, those that maybe haven't gone through the testing process before, it's a long time. And passed the first one, passed the second one, the third one, had several tests. And before you know it, I was getting this letter to go to the police academy. So that was actually my real first job. Did that for about 3.5, almost 4 years. And then actually around the time I was working full time as a police officer, that's when I decided, hey, you know what? I still like continue my schooling. And at that time also, I had some awesome supervisors, sergeants and lieutenants that they were preparing for their retirement. And part of their preparation was wanting to go back to school so they can teach. So my sergeant was getting his doctorates. My lieutenant, I think he was finishing up some classes to be certified teacher, teaching, law and stuff. And so I think it was just like a perfect storm in a sense where I had the right people in the right places that encouraged and pushed me to do even more. Because I thought I was going to be there, awesome, retirement, good job, good benefits. But they're the ones, hey, you get your master's already, or you're working on your master's. But you're in it young enough to where you don't have to go through this career. Basically is what they were saying. I was like, wait, why are they telling me this? So I was about at the 2-year mark, and there's like, yeah, you're smart, you can do this, you can do that. You know what? How about you go take the Dr. Christensen is his name. He was our police psychologist at the time. How about you go take his job? Because sometimes you don't understand what we're trying to say because he's not from here, from Hawaii. So in conversing with them, their support, they pushed me, encouraged me to go back to school and completed my master's. And then from there on, just decided to pursue full-time career in mental health. And so I'm a licensed clinician here in North Carolina, actually licensed both in Hawaii and in North Carolina. And what's interesting is primarily right now, my job for the last 4 years, I work for the local government, and me and my team, 2 other mental health professionals, we started a behavioral health program for the county, basically, in primarily working with first responders. So it kind of came full circle. Once a first responder, always a first responder. So, but I primarily get to work with our sheriff's department, our paramedics, our firefighters in a way, and basically respond to crisis calls. So if they're on a serious call, about support the families that may be affected, but primarily I'm there to support the first responders, just kind of debrief with them, help them kind of mitigate some of the effects of trauma so they don't get PTSD and some other symptoms that lead to stereotypically, you guys probably hear the stories of police officers getting caught up in domestic abuse, alcohol, you name it. That's kind of pretty common throughout the country. And so part of my journey has been helping right now this area, the first responders kind of mitigate all of that. So sorry, I know it's kind of me talking, just keep talking, but that's kind of the path I guess I took.
But so how is it now, especially in the last what 2 now going on 3 years after COVID? I'm sure the mental illness has gone up. You must have
Yeah.
been heck up busy. Could you talk about that a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah, super busy. So even though I primarily work with government employees and first responders, I also, which is another cool story, based off of my background, started my own business. And so I own a group practice, and I have several therapists that work for me. And with this group practice, we also service the community. So we work closely with churches, closely with schools and other nonprofits, and all around. Primarily, at least my recent experience, has been children. I don't always like to talk about the seriousness, but being both a police officer and seeing the worst of the worst, and then now on the flip side, helping families heal from the worst of the worst. COVID had the extremes. Here, just like many places, schools shut down. Little kids, even kindergarteners. My son started kindergarten, had to go virtual, and although it was rare, some of the extreme examples, and we had a few teenagers take their life because of the stressors, right, that came with disconnection from peers primarily, just disruption in their kind of day-to-day routine that they're used to. And then on top of that, being at home where the parents now were thrown into this role of being teacher, and they had no clue what to do. So as you can imagine, more frustration, more stress, potentially, and if they're already in a bad place, more alcohol and drugs and abuse that would follow. So that would have been that. That was the extremes that I saw and heard about, and even connected with families to kind of help them heal from the ramifications. Yeah, so somewhat unfortunate, in the positions that I've been able to serve, especially these last few years. Not only I hear the stories of worst case scenarios, but even with our first responders would go to calls of worst case scenarios. So was rough. It was definitely rough. There's still a fallout. In fact, several of my colleagues, they're statisticians and predicting that the fallout's going to be continuous for the next 5-10 years with mental health and well-being, because just trickles down. Things that we're not even seeing yet is going to be strongly connected to all that happened during COVID.
Yeah, I totally see it. Just being transparent too, about a year ago, I was kind of having a very stressful episode where it was work. I just wasn't able to get that work-life balance for some reason, bro. And so I actually went and saw a therapist too, just to talk with them. And it was interesting because she had told me, and I actually mentioned in one of the videos on the channel, she had told me that in Hawaii, because of the way the culture is there, not too many people go see therapists, and they should. She's mentioned, like with Polynesians, they tend to not go because the attitude is it's not a big issue. We get them. We got no problems. We rely on other means to relieve our stress. It would be okay. And she also talked about how in Asian culture it's a little bit different, but they avoid it as well because they sweep it under the rug. They don't like to talk about those types of issues. And so, and of course, Polynesian and Asian culture is so influential over here in Hawaii. That's why there's so many people with mental issues that aren't doing anything about it, bro. Are you thinking of perhaps maybe moving back and seeing if opportunity can be here for you and your family?
You know that. In fact, the only reason why I came out here to begin with is because we already had a plan to come back. I knew that this was going to be an important part of kind of our life's journey, because my wife's family is from this area and they're a lot older than my family. So I knew we had to come out here, spend some time with them, allow our kids to get to know their grandparents, the Italian side, German side, and eventually would not finish, but spend majority of our family life in Hawaii. And so, uh, actually, I'm going to back up a little bit because this is part of the journey. So, definitely, if you guys never tell already, I'm definitely spiritually oriented in the sense of I think it's an important part of everyday decisions that we turn to, whether it's a Christian background or Muslim or whatever your background is, really seeking out your higher power and allowing that to be kind of your foundation. And so when we decided to make this leap, let's keep in mind I was leaving a pretty good job that a lot of people try to get into with HPD. And I was in good position, awesome supervisors. And once I graduated from my master's, I realized like, hey, you know what? I think God has something different for me. And it only reverberated. It only was louder when my supervisor started telling me the same things. Like, hey, why are you telling me that? You're telling me to leave. And not in a bad way. It's like, hey, I feel like you have something greater that you got to do. So long story short, my wife ends up going to North Carolina because her brother was getting married, and I'm still employed at the Home Police Department. And because of that, I was able to go to the wedding. But she ended up connecting with some family friends who was from the husband was originally from Samoa and the wife from Utah. And in conversations with him, come to find out uh, he was a mental health practitioner or a mental health professional. And not only that, but he actually was an executive director of a behavior sorry, I'm blank for a second there, a therapeutic boarding school. And more and more I got to talk to him, the more I realized like, man, this was meant to be, because he's gonna this Polynesian man right now already blazed a trail for me in many ways. And he was looking for someone of Polynesian descent basically to continue. And so not only was he doing awesome stuff in the field of mental health, and some genius and innovative stuff too, but he was the one leading it. And so a lot of people in the private sector, just kind of give you an idea. So across the US, not many people know this, but there's private institutions, therapeutic boarding schools, mental health facilities, residential treatment centers, and awesome care. We primarily worked with teenagers and their families. And he was known for building schools like in different states. And did a great job with the particular school that he was recruiting me for and I was interested in, which happened to be just 30 minutes away from where my wife's family lived. And he was a member of the church too. So all these different elements was coming together. So long story short, that was my first initial job that got me up to North Carolina, straight into mental health, full time, working in a therapeutic boarding school. And and under the the mentorship of Soliai is his last name, Fotu Soliai, from Samoa. And what was cool and what I didn't know, which was very valuable, is that he was blending the Polynesian mindset and also the Christian beliefs into what we knew as and what we all studied through school. Now with my master's, psychology. So I was able to marry all of that, and my mind, body, and soul just started connecting. I was like, oh man, this is how I'm gonna make it authentic. Me as a counselor, even though I was thousands of miles away from home, here I am in a predominantly white community, and how are they gonna listen to me when they already talked down towards some of our Hispanic people, the farmers over here. And it was just an awesome experience too. I did that for 4 years at the therapeutic boarding school, being mentored by Fotu Soliai, and just basically bringing together the world of psychology and Polynesian beliefs and culture. And I think the biggest thing that I learned through that experience was we already had ingrained in us, based off of how we lived and how we were raised as Hawaiians and Samoans and Polynesians, the answers to a lot of these mental health problems that, no joke. So that this particular facility that I worked in, parents would pay anywhere from $12,000 to $15,000 a month to get their child into that facility. And so here I am. So you can imagine the families are pretty well off. Here I am. I thought at that time still was a young Hawaiian boy, just graduated his degree in psychology. First one, by the way, to even pursue higher learning. So, first generation. So just blazing these trails, for my family, and behind closed doors, anxious, afraid. What are these people going to think about me? I'm supposed to be the expert. They're already paying, all this money to send their kid here, and I'm the one in charge, of their family healing, the healing process. And to just give you some ideas, these parents were either CEOs of big companies, professors at Harvard, professors at Princeton. And so this is all running through my mind. And so, Fotu and some others, as they're training and as I'm conversing with them, he helped me understand that I already had this level of training that even, the professionals that have been doing it for years, but never grew up in Hawaii or never grew up in the Polynesian culture, would never know and never understand. So I thought that was super cool. But sorry, I'm going on a tangent there, but that was one of my greatest experiences when it came to recognizing my potential as a Polynesian male and understanding that we are ready, based off of our culture and our beliefs and the way that we were raised, ahead of the game when it came to finding out the answers of how to love one another, how to show aloha, and all that good stuff that we talk about often in our culture.
Bruh, you the man, bruh. You the man, bruh. Seriously, we're gonna need Nakua. We're gonna need warriors like you coming back to Hawaii and helping out the Lahui, man. Because
I'll be back for sure, working on that.
yeah, man. Real quick, I know we only got like maybe a couple minutes. If you had to give a bit of advice to struggling island boys anywhere in the world, what would you want to tell them?
I was thinking about this a long time, actually. I was like, man, how am I gonna? I can literally, no joke, because I've done this before, train on this subject for days. But to kind of break it down into a few minutes, I think for especially Polynesian men, first understanding where they come from. I forgot who told me this, but if you remember, I think it's 1996, Brada Iz's CD cover, I think, was Looking to the Future, but his back was showing. And he had his drum, and he's dressed basically in kind of like ancient kahiko clothing. And I always wonder, like, hey, look into the future. How come one can see his back? Long story short, I've been learning. I'm part of this actually Hawaiian healing class now. I've been doing virtual with Ahakane Keola Chan is his name. So I've been learning Lomi Lomi, Lao Lapa'au for the last 2 years. And that's going to be part of me coming back and including that into my healing art. But it was in this class I learned that, for most Polynesians, Hawaiians especially, in order to move forward, you got to understand where you come from. And so that CD cover was Brada is saying, hey, we got to look at our past, understand our ancestors, the values and beliefs that were passed down that may have been lost, or the disconnect, whether it's the intergenerational trauma, language for some, culture for others. But there's a lot that's been lost, right? Because of the introduction of Western society and some of those beliefs And so part of healing, and probably the biggest part of healing and being able to do the best you can is finding out for yourself like who you are. So identity, basically. And for some, they may be able to find that within their religious organization. Others is maybe joining a halal or a sporting club. But basically, finding that identity and really moving forward from that. And man, you had some powerhouse guys. I didn't want to repeat necessarily what was already shared, so I wanted to emphasize that one. Is turning to your ancestors. Man, Hawaiians, Polynesians, such amazing, innovative, smart people. And I think we forgot that in many ways.
Hey, mahalo, folks. Woo, that was juicy. We get some more stuff we gotta talk story about. So yeah, we have Mike back on again. And go ahead, Mike.
Aloha. Man, shoots. Like I was saying earlier, I could talk on these subjects for a long time. But just kind of answering that question again, advice or what I would share. And I got a short story actually, goes along with I shared with you all that I moved to North Carolina, but had this mentor from Samoa. And part of what we would do is, we would actually go around the country training at different conferences and sharing, without some of the people knowing that would come to our trainings, sharing basically our cultural beliefs on what we thought the family unity looked like, some of those practices. But so we're at this conference in Utah, out of all places. And keep in mind, probably there's me, my supervisor, Fultu Soliai, and maybe one other person that's brown skin, and everybody else sea of white. And so we go into this big conference hall to get ready for the keynote speaker, and they have the DJ, and he's doing the sounds too, and he sees us off from afar, and he has tattoos, Polynesian tattoos on his arm. He come up to us, and I can't remember the exact question, but I remember the purpose and what we ended up sharing in that moment. He thought that we were there to either set up or part of the cleanup crew. I can't remember what exactly. He didn't believe that we were there to train all these people because we're part of the keynote speaking. He was like, wait, what? We can do that? Was basically his response. It's like we Polynesians can do that. Like we can teach this group of people, sea of white, and have value to offer. And I've already been in this position, this job for a few years. So in my mind, I was like, wow, was I like that before? I think I was. I think I never knew that was possible until I saw someone else, having to be my mentor, paving the way and showing me that it's possible to do things that maybe historically we never seen brown people do or another Polynesian do. I never realized, kind of going back to my dad, I never realized till later on other people saying this, because my dad's been tech for like 30 plus years already, Samoan, Hawaiian. You see him, you wouldn't think he's a techie, but he's been operating the banks for a long time behind the scenes. When banks crash, he's the one going in, fixing everything. In fact, I remember, I think it was like 5th, 6th grade. We was one of the first, if not the first, Al Papa Club that had one computer and the internet connected to the library, and we could borrow books in the library. And I thought it was just normal. I thought everybody had a computer in the house and could borrow and check out books at the library. But no. So little things like that, for me, that was normal, right? I was like, oh yeah, of course we can do techie stuff. My dad would build and break down computers and bring stuff home. We would go to his office and have these super computers all over the place. I thought that was just normal. So I, kind of going back to the initial question of advice, find that mentor. I think you had several people that said that on the videos earlier. And if you can't find that mentor, pave the way. for that next Polynesian, behind you, and bring them with you. 'Cause it's a kuka thing, it's that's the best way to uplift the lahui. And so a few things I wanted to share as far as resources, and maybe I'll send up the link to Gavon so he can post it. But there are different, I guess you could say, movements right now that's happening. There's many that's been in halaus, for example, hula halaus. But one that I've recently joined is focused on Hawaiian healing, and one of the models values that they're really pushing out there is having a healer in every home, or having a Hawaiian healer, Samoan healer, a native healer in every home. And otherwise, and this is how it used to be. This is where, again, turning back to what our ancestors knew and bringing it forward to present day and moving to the future. In every household, every family, there was a form of not just physical healing, so lomi lomi, la'au lapa'au, but spiritual healing. In fact, even when I meet with my clients here in North Carolina, I often start with, hey, I know this is different, especially those just going to counseling for the first time. But the reality is, as human beings, we've always had some type of formal, organized, or even semi-formal setting where we could connect and talk and converse and process through challenges and trauma. In the Hawaiian culture, we had specific kahuna that would do that, incorporated with spiritual rituals. But we had your modern day psychologists that we would call psychologists today. We had doctors, we had masseuse and massage, and you name it. We had our own health system that, keep in mind, almost, according to some historians, one of the most isolated island chains, but still house almost 1 million people, right? Never have shipping containers coming in, 1 million people almost, right? They had an advanced health system, advanced knowledge in food, and taking care of the land, as we know. So we literally have to, in order to survive, especially on the islands, we have to go back to what they knew, because they were doing it and blending that, with the advancements in technology. And so we can do that on the individual level, right? So maybe that starts with genealogy, connecting with family, friends, about, hey, what did grandpa do? What the kupuna did? What was his, occupation? And just, learning about small stuff like that. And if you have an interest, finding those mentors, paving that way, if not. And in fact, just a few weeks ago, my sister, who was 1 year older than me, she told me she was going back to school. And I knew eventually, if not my sister, some of my other siblings and family members would follow. But like I shared earlier, one of the first generation to pave that way. And cannot be scared. You gotta go get them. There's many nights where I was like, man, I'm gonna fail this class. In fact, I did fail this class, but I'm gonna do them again. Because I know it's not just for me. It's not just for me, but it's gonna be for every other person that I can pass this knowledge on to, that I can help, and of all different races and colors too. And they'll get I don't want to be misunderstood, but such a blessing living in Hawaii, being able to have such a diverse opportunity, work with so many different cultures. And that's what allowed me to live in Ukraine, help those people, to live in other states, in Canada, now North Carolina. We are, and I think we've been built this way too, Polynesians, the most adaptive type people. It's amazing. So that will be my biggest advice, is connecting to those truths that we come from amazing ancestors with so much knowledge. And they still, this is the kicker here. When you connect to your spiritual higher power, your ancestors are waiting to share that knowledge with you through your dreams, through meeting certain people. It's not coincidence. And yes, formal setting, going to college, going to school, training, skills, those are great stuff. But it can be as simple as looking back, and connecting with your genealogy. And before you know it, you'll be waking up like, whoa, I just got a message and this is what I gotta do. So that's my biggest advice.
Wow. That's amazing, brother. I touche. You said so many good things, man. I had to comment a little bit because when you were talking about your dad, I think I was in elementary school. Was it elementary? Was it elementary or intermediate when I found out your dad was in IT? And then I was like, "Oh, uncle's in IT? No way!" Or something like that. And then I remember when I got older, because in my field I'm in e-learning, and so it's a combination of like graphic design but also IT too, because I do coding, web development, and a lot of interactive game development too, with like apps and stuff like that. So I'm involved in that. And so it's funny because just like your dad, whenever I tell people what I do for my job, they look at me like, "What?" That's the first thing they do. I remember one time somebody, some local Hawaiian sister was from church. We were just talking stories, and she was elderly, and she asked me, "Well, where do I work?" I said, "Oh, I work at Kamehameha Schools." And she goes, "Oh, bus driver." I was like, "Oh no, auntie, I work in. I mean, nothing wrong with being bus driver. Nothing wrong with
Yeah.
And, hey, I got I got no
Nothing
problem.
wrong being DJ, sound man. Nothing wrong with that. For sure.
DJ,
But we can do lots of different things, huh?
right?
We can be a keynote speaker. We can run the conference. We can organize, all this type of stuff.
I think, yeah. I know the bus drivers. They tend to be on a darker skin side, and they tend to be on the bigger side too. So I took that as a compliment. but I told her, like, "Oh no, auntie, I work in IT," and she looked at me like real puzzled. I was like, "Huh?" I was like, "Yeah, I work with the computer stuff." She goes, "Computers? Oh, okay. Yeah, my guy, brother, my guy, and stuff." But like you said, because those are the type of positions and maybe even career paths that we see that are often celebrated, especially in the mainstream media. Like a lot of times you would see when you see successful Polynesians, I normally would see them in like athletics or like entertainment or in something blue collar, tends to be. And you see that a lot in news and podcasts and stuff like that. When you see people in your field succeeding, or in IT, or in other fields like that, you hardly ever see that kind of stuff showcased and celebrated. And that was the reason why I wanted to do this channel, to kind of tell people, "Hey, look, we were in everything, brother. We're in everything."
And I was gonna be connecting with some of the real estate guys that you had on earlier. I was like, "Oh man,
Yeah,
I know they was out there, but I gotta connect with them now."
Well, I tell you, man, after this, knowing what you do for work, especially because this channel is talking about strengthening yourself mentally, especially having that positive mindset, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have a lot of guys trying to connect with you on this one too, man.
Oh yeah, of course. So I will send you my contact information, and for sure, I mean, they can always contact me anytime. We are 5 hours difference, but send me text, email, shoot. I get so many so much stuff I like sharing. Just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, brother. No, please do. Hey, cuz, seriously, thank you so much, man, for doing this, bro. Yeah. Mahalo, much mahalo, and aloha to you and your family, bro. Much love to you guys, man. And looking forward to when you move back.
Oh, it's coming soon. Mahalo nui.
Okay, hey, everybody, thank you for joining us on Hawaii Kaika. I want to thank Mike Tui again, my cousin, and tune in for another episode. Aloha.
Aloha.